What's up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Variant the Podcast. I'm Arris with Tim Conley. What's up, Tim?
Oh, you know everything and anything. Greetings, Variant Nation. Welcome back to the show. More fun and goodness coming today.
More comic things to
I'm
talk
tired.
about.
I'm going to be real honest right now, people. I'm tired. I have work going on at my house, as you know.
You have contractors there.
Yes.
Yep.
And so on top of everything else that is my normal schedule, got that going on. So
Is it been loud?
today.
Or is it like, because they're working in
Not
your house?
too bad.
Okay.
The noise, it's been noisy, but not like unbearable.
Okay.
It's
cool.
just more of all of the wrangling of all of that goes on, you know, when you have an incident go on in your house.
Right.
So we had a water pipe damage situation, and so now it's all getting fixed, but you know, it's all of the logistics of all of that and along with all your regular life. So I'm tired today is the point.
Well, that room that they're working on too is like right next to your office, like right across from your office too.
It is.
So that's gotta be fun.
Yeah. So, cause I've also been working remotely to make sure that I'm there while the contractors are there.
In case anything comes up. Yeah.
Yeah, in case anything comes up. So it's also like, you know, I'm sitting in my office right across from the room that they're rebuilding. Yeah, and it's like, yeah. And they haven't even started the floors yet. They got to tear up a bunch of the floors. This is not important to anyone. I get it. But I'm tired is what I'm saying.
Well, you know what? We got some fun.
Take it easy on me today.
We got some fun stuff. We always have fun
yeah.
stuff to talk about, but it's just crazy that there's always so much, you know, pop culture stuff coming out that it's like this new trailer, that new thing, this synopsis. They said that this was going to happen and now it's not.
Although I will say, I do feel like kind of right now, it's while there's still stuff coming, it's in like a little bit of a slight lull before things really ramp up.
Yeah.
Like we hit the Batman, we've got Moon Knight coming, but we've already kind of covered most of what we've seen. We've been kind of steering clear of a lot of the stuff they're releasing because we're so close and we don't want spoilers,
Right.
even from the trailers. But they've got the, you know, little featurettes and stuff. But this is like, I feel like it's a little quiet before the storm in terms of like real full-blown comic book movie madness and all the big event books that are coming out for both Marvel and DC. They've got just tons of books coming.
Yeah.
I think right as we get into April, like right at the beginning of April,
We're going into summer.
end of this month through, I would say July, it's going to be pretty much balls to the wall.
Yeah.
Make now look like child's play
Well,
is what I'm saying.
I'm curious once Multiverse of Madness comes out because that's to be big.
Yeah, man. Well,
That'd be
even
big.
Moon Knight.
Moon Knight's
Like
huge
I want to kind of talk a little bit of like Moon Knight predictions today, though. I will say, and like, what's this? Like, what? Because we've seen a little bit more,
Yeah.
like, and we know it's a character study, but I kind of feel like, you know, what is this really going to do to the MCU?
I don't think
Leading into the Multiverse of Madness specifically.
Well, one of the, if I forget, it's one of the writers or showrunners or producers, I forget, but one of the higher ups on the show did say, like recently, that this is not going to be connected to anything in current MCU.
Well, that blows that whole thing.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Like this is not going to tie.
I didn't see that.
Oh yeah.
When did they say that?
Like 2 days ago. Like it was deadline.
That explains why I didn't see that.
Yeah. That is like, this is kind of its own deal. It's not really gonna. So that I was like, okay, for once they're like, they probably realized, don't get your expectation up. So no, Mephisto is not going to be in this series.
Just get ahead of it.
Like this is just his story, introducing him, and then there might probably, I would imagine, some sort of, you know, tease at the end of the series.
We'll probably
bring
still get some surprises.
something, but I'm not banking on multiverse stuff.
That's a smart way to go with it.
Yeah.
Because if you do have surprises, it's really going to be a surprise.
Right.
Because everybody's going to go into it like this is very self-contained. It's a character study. Looks phenomenal.
Does.
Like, it looks like it's going to be just an absolute blast. But if they do introduce surprises, then it'll be a genuine, like, it'll take you off guard, which I love that.
Yeah, I'm super.
So I'm not upset about that.
Based on the trailers and the feature. I stopped watching. I told you, I was like, I don't like, we're like, what, a week and a half away now? Like, I just want to watch a show now. Yeah. But from what I've seen, all the, you know, the pictures and some of the featurettes and the second to last trailer, whatever, dude, it looks, once they said remarkable. Like character study, I was in. Yeah, I was in because it's Moon Knight character study. Suit looks great. It's Oscar Isaac. Yeah. Ethan Hawke, big fan of him too. Yep. I'm all for it. Like I'm already sold. So it's one of those things that's like, you don't have to keep showing. I'm in. Like you sold.
I will say everything the stuff that they just put out this past week, I believe it was, they're saying that's it. This is the final look. These are the final trailers.
When does it come? The 29th,
30th, I believe.
It's the very end of the month.
Yeah, it's right at the end.
Okay.
So it's the 30th or the 31st, one or the other. whatever that Wednesday is, I think, right?
Yes.
Because it's Wednesdays, yes? They're sticking with that?
They're sticking with the Wednesdays.
So it's the 30th.
Okay, there you go. So that is, that's like just...
It's less than 2 weeks. Just under 2 weeks now.
Wow, look, math.
So I guess since we can't really make predictions about that then, because that's a pointless argument.
It is.
Based on you just ruining every possible.
I just freaking popped your balloon. Pop.
So then we should jump into the new Miss Marvel trailer. Our first look at Miss Marvel.
So we got our first look at Miss Marvel and a release date, June 8th.
Yeah, which is sooner than I thought.
It is. I thought it was going to be at the end of this year.
Because that's right after Obi-Wan drops.
But it makes sense, right? So you're getting Moon Knight, then you're getting Obi-Wan, then we're getting Miss Marvel, and I would imagine we're going to get Andor.
Well, what I'm saying is Obi-Wan's still going to be ongoing while when Miss Marvel comes out.
Oh, they're overlapping, are they?
Overlap. And I think their reason.
Oh, yeah, because Obi-Wan comes out May 25th.
May 25th.
Oh, they are overlapped, only for
like 4 weeks.
Yeah, okay. So a good amount.
Their thinking on that might be it's so different.
It's true.
Miss Marvel.
And different audiences, for sure.
The demographics they're targeting clearly is, it's not as broad.
Yeah.
So they might be thinking like these two can run parallel. So anyway, what were your thoughts about the trailer overall?
I think I've said it before. I'm not big on Miss Marvel in general.
Right.
Like, nothing against the character. It's just not my cup of tea, per se. So I wasn't overly enthusiastic for the series in general. I'm always open to it. So I'm like, it's something Marvel. Like, who knows? But after watching the trailer, I still think it's probably not going to be my cup of tea.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to watch it. I watch anything in the MCU because, that's who I am, what we do. But I don't expect me to be head over heels for the show or anything. Right. It definitely seems like it's for a younger audience, but that's like completely fine, right? I think that's the cool thing about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where there's so much content now. Yeah, there's something for everyone. You know what I mean?
It's getting there,
right? Because like if Moon Knight is going to be like the more of the darker side or violent side of the MCU, then you have something for that tone. Clearly, Miss Marvel is going to be a little bit on the teen kid end of it because she's a younger character coming into her own. Then you have like the crime stuff or like the heist movies like Ant-Man. So there's like there's so many genres within the MCU that there's something for everyone. And I think it's unfair to have them be like, well, to like everything, to expect, Marvel fans to like everything. So it's like, well, would I have liked it to be more of a tone that I would have loved? Sure, but it's completely fair that I get it. There's a completely demographic that is going to love this. Yeah. So more power to them.
I think because my kids range from this I don't know, this may or may not surprise people. My kids range in ages from 19 to 11.
Okay.
From, oldest to youngest. So I have an 11-year-old and I've got a 13-year-old and I've got a 14-year-old. My 14-year-old is a daughter. My daughter is 14. My boys are 11 and 13. My oldest girl is 19, my oldest daughter. So all of them, we all saw the trailer. So I felt like they're like a really good gauge because of the wide spread of their age groups. Right. So it was like the boys were like, pass.
Right.
Right. My oldest daughter is too old for it. She looked at it and she's like, like a kid show. But my 14-year-old daughter was like, I don't know. It could be, right?
And it makes sense.
So she looked at it and she's like, I'm not sure. I'm going to give it a chance. Like she was like, kind of looks a little CW, but she was more like, oh, that could be fun.
Right.
So I felt like that's like a good barometer of the demographics and the target audience they're going for.
For sure. I mean, and that's totally fine because it's supposed to be a hero for that, age group and stuff like that. I think the best way to summarize it for me, I was thinking about it, I'm like, what it basically comes down to just by watching this short little teaser trailer is it looks like a Disney Channel original movie with an MCU budget. If that makes any sense.
Yes, that's funny you say that because that was exactly what my oldest son said.
Did he really?
He said that looks like a Disney Channel show.
Right, but like,
and I was like, it's not that bad.
Well, that's what I'm saying with an MCU budget. Like it's like up.
Yeah, it's like the quality is definitely.
And I'm not.
It is for me. I did not think that was the one surprise from the trailer. Because in terms of the tone and what it is, we already talked about it. We were both expecting a Stargirl type show.
For sure. Right? But a lot of people love that show. Yes. I actually enjoyed the first season of that show.
I haven't watched it, so I couldn't really say either way. But in terms of like its target audience, its approach, that sort of thing. We were both kind of anticipating that already. So on that front, I got exactly what I expected. What I was a little surprised at is that the quality did feel a touch step down for me. It felt a lot more TV than anything else they've done. Now, again, that's just the trailer.
Although you did kind of say the same thing with Hawkeye too. There was moments that you said felt kind of TV.
Yeah, and that was true in the actual series.
Right.
Yeah, for me. But the series was great.
For sure.
So it's just, but it was a step down. This was way more so.
I'm curious to see.
It was way more CW looking than I would have anticipated.
I wonder if that's more too just because of like the story of what it is, what it's dealing with. It's a younger, audience.
Maybe, but they did what that with Spider-Man, and it didn't feel like that.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see, like, because it's I don't even think the trailer is 2 minutes, is it? It's like just under 2 minutes.
I don't know what the length is.
Even if it is, let's say it's just 2 minutes even, right? It's still not enough. Even 3 minutes isn't enough. I feel to like, I don't know, get a gauge. I guess some trailers are really bad, but with that said, again, this is just nothing against the character, but I know a lot of people love the character. It's just not like a character that I'm like, again, over the moon with. So, but I hope that actually works in my favor. Because remember, Hawkeye.
That very much worked for you.
Hawkeye, I wasn't overly excited for too. I was way more excited than Miss Marvel, and that ended up being one of my favorite Disney Plus Marvel shows to date.
I don't know that this is going to work out quite the same.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, it's good to have high hopes.
It is kind of, I know a common complaint too, which I was like, what is her power change? Where you see in the trailer where now she has some kind of bracelet that gives her, I guess, like almost Green Lantern-esque powers where it makes like constructs. Like her hand bigger, where in the comics she's a polymorph, so she basically is Mr. Fantastic. She can stretch and make her limbs big, small, thin, all that stuff. But now it seems like that bracelet gives her energy projections that could make an energy projected fist. You could walk on air with these like levitating plates and stuffs. I'm assuming because in the comics the Terrigen Mist is what gave her her powers, and that's from the Inhumans. They're kind of flux with the humans right now. They kind of tried it, show didn't do well, and now we don't know what's going on with them. So, and we also know they're trying to link her to Captain Marvel more, so it's like the cosmic route. But it's like, it's fine. I guess they changed lots of stuff for books, but I personally would have liked to see the polymorph aspect. And I know even fans, like diehard fans of her, are upset because like that's a massive part of the character. So
I was a little confused about like, very much in line with what you were saying. I was very confused as like, why make that big of a change? Because they have made changes to characters and MCU's been doing that. But this is like basically a character rewrite.
Yeah.
And it's like, did you really need to tell a story? Like the character's arc in this, series, it just seems like it's kind of the stereotypical rehash of like, oh, the kid who's misunderstood and, doesn't fit in. And then they get these powers and all of a sudden they're a superhero and their life changes. It's like, did you really have to tell that story over again that much that you had to rewrite the character completely to, you know what I mean? That was the part that seemed a little bit weird. And so I can understand that fans of the character, from comics, why they would be like, why did you do that?
It's a very big departure, but I don't know. I could only imagine it's to connect her more to Captain Marvel.
You know what it did remind me of? This is the other thing. It reminded me, and I'm wondering if it might be a tie-in. Probably not. But it reminded me of the 10 Rings and what they did with the 10 Rings in Shang-Chi.
Well, that's the thing I was actually going to say. As far as the departure goes, the 10 Rings in Shang-Chi was a massive departure from the books. I mean, they made them from actual finger rings to like these forearm cuffs, essentially. So the MCU is no stranger to changing things dramatically.
No. Well, I'm wondering if they may tie the two things together.
Possibly.
It might be technology from the same source.
It's possible.
You know what I mean? That's because that's when I looked at it and I saw her put it on, the whole thing. And then the powers that it gave her, they're not entirely the same, but similar to what the 10 Rings allowed Shang-Chi and his father to do with them. And total departure. I mean, the 10 Rings was a departure, but Shang-Chi himself, it was very similar. Within reason. So anyway, I'm curious to see if there is any, probably not, like I said, but if there would be any connection there, because we're still yet to find out what the 10 Rings are. They alluded to some mystery there. So we still are waiting to see where they came from and what their source is. They said that they're super old and all this kind of thing. So maybe.
Yeah, I'm very curious too, like as far as the villain, who's the villain going to be? in this series too, because we're still early. It's the first teaser trailer we've really gotten for it thus far. But you know, I don't really have much more to say because I'm not overly excited for it. I'm gonna watch it, but it's one of those shows where I don't think it's necessarily gonna be for me. But I hope, you know, their target audience likes it. I hope other people dig it.
Yeah,
You know?
Yeah, and we already, like we talked about, we're going to watch it, obviously.
For
We're
sure.
gonna see at least, I'll watch at least the first episode. I've committed to that.
You won't watch the whole thing?
I mean, maybe. It
'Cause
depends on the first episode.
Because you know they're going to link it. Captain Marvel, at least, they're linking it to.
Yeah,
for sure.
but if it's
Brie
something
Larson
I
is
watch,
making
I'm
an
just like,
appearance.
nah, this is not made for me. Like, and to where I can get cliff notes, I may go that route, but we'll see after, you know, we're definitely going to give it a chance, see what they do with it, but, you know, we'll go from there.
Yeah, I'm curious if she's going to come into, you know, meet Captain Marvel at the end of the series. Maybe we'll see a glimpse of her at the beginning of the series. Because much like in the comics, you see it in the trailer. She's like a Captain Marvel fanboy. Like that's her superhero. So you would only think, especially since Miss Marvel is going to be in the next Captain Marvel movie, we're going to see Brie Larson appear as Carol Danvers in here.
I would have to imagine,
right?
yeah.
Like,
I mean, her name is Miss Marvel.
Yes. Miss Marvel, Captain Marvel,
so, yeah, I would imagine so. And I'm curious, have you seen, like, what's been the fan reaction to it? I have not seen, because I've been so disconnected for the last few days.
I did a poll because I was very, very curious. Thousands of people voted. And it ended up being 42% were not excited.
Okay.
Yep. And then 50, what's my math here?
42.
42. I'm like, so if 42% were not excited, what's the remainder?
So then 75%
so 58%
are passionate and 16% are totally against it.
So 58% liked the trailer and 42% did not like the trailer.
In conclusion, 98% of all recipients
80% of the time it works all the time. So yeah.
So 58-42.
58-42. For 58 liking the trailer, 42 not liking the trailer. So almost 50-50. Almost. But the majority liking the trailer, obviously.
Okay.
Because that is math. That's math.
That's actual math. Yes.
That's percentages.
That's actual. That's not Anchorman math. Yeah. So let us know what you guys think, because I'm always curious to see what the variant nation thinks about these things as they come out. Let us know what you guys think of the trailer. Are you looking forward to Miss Marvel? Did you dig what you're seeing so far?
Kamala Khan.
Good, bad, ugly, whatever. Let us know in the comments. I'm very curious about this one because it is very different than anything we've got, and it's coming right off. I don't think this is fair, by the way.
It's coming right off of Kenobi.
It's coming off Moon Knight
Yeah.
and Kenobi.
Yeah.
Good.
But I think it's like you said.
That's mean.
I think it's like you said earlier. It's so different. Like it's clearly for a younger audience that they're like, you know, because Kenobi is going to be, that's getting all like the nostalgic people like us from the 90s, 80s, 70s and whatnot. It's going to clearly be more of a PG-13 thing. Moon Knight's obviously really darker, if Feige said it. And then we're going to like a more bubbly show.
I wonder if they did it just purely so like the older audience will be distracted by Kenobi and we'll just leave that to the kids. Like, we got Kenobi. We don't care. I don't know. Anyway.
Very, very, very curious. But staying on Disney Plus, Tim, it has happened. The merger has commenced. They have joined in union. And that I'm talking about the Marvel Netflix shows, Daredevil, Defenders, Punisher, Jessica Jones, all that good stuff is officially made its way to Disney Plus in the US of A.
Yep, they're on there.
Now, it's been weird, right? Because those shows are kind of like the rated R version of the MCU, and we didn't really know where they even stood. We knew they were loosely based in the MCU for years, but after, it's been so long since we've gotten anything from them, they were like, okay, and then Far From Home, or No Way Home rather, confirmed that
they brought it all back in.
Daredevil's here.
Well, and
yes, Hawkeye, Kingpin is in Hawkeye, so it's like, oh no, these shows are part of the MCU. So then a few months after that of Kingpin's appearance in Hawkeye, No Way Home with Daredevil, they decided to contract went up with Netflix. They decided to bring them over to Disney Plus. Now, one of the big things with that is these are very rated R shows, right? Especially Punisher, stuff like that, very rated R. So it's like, how is that going to work?
Jessica Jones and Luke Cage, they got some
All of them, yeah.
They got some funny business.
Yeah, all of them are not kid friendly necessarily. So a lot of people wondering how that's going to work being on Disney Plus, which it's Disney. So you just see Disney, you're like, yeah, family.
Yeah.
Well, I think they had a pretty cool solution. So yesterday, when the merger happened, like calling it a merger, it's funny. When they came on there, I went on my Disney Plus. I'm like, where the freak is Daredevil? Like everyone on the internet saying the Daredevil's on there, Punisher's on. I'm like, what? What's happening?
Right.
So I couldn't find it on my phone. So I went on my laptop on Disney Plus, and then a screen basically popped up where you have to approve. Now it's like basically says, not verbatim, but it basically saying that there's new parental controls, and in order to see the full catalog, you have to authorize it.
Right.
So they didn't just add it, throw it in there. You have to approve it, but it also gives you the option to make some, because you can do multiple accounts on there. You have to approve each account, and not even just kids, even the adults.
Yes, each profile that you have on there, right?
Each profile on there, whether it's kids or an adult profile. So you have to go in there one by one and systematically approve it.
Right.
So if a parent was concerned, like, I got Disney Plus, so I could just be like, watch anything on there and not be worried, then you just don't approve it, and your Disney Plus stays the same. You won't have any of the rated R stuff.
Right.
But if you're someone like me, where like I'm an adult and I want to see that stuff on there, I just click the button and now I get the full catalog. So I think that's a perfect workaround. Whereas like if you don't approve it, it's like they never got it on Disney Plus. If you do approve it, now you have it.
Although I do think it's funny because you know what's going to happen, right? So you're going to have parents, you're going to create a profile for us and then a profile for the kids.
Yeah.
This is what everybody does with like Netflix and whatever. What I've always found funny about that is it assumes that a kid doesn't know how to click the other profile.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, well, yeah, but they can just click the other profile and they can watch whatever they want.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's not really something that makes a ton of sense. Like it's just like a false sense of security for parents, really, when it boils down to it, unless you're actively staying in the room and monitoring everything at all times.
Right.
Which, who does that?
I mean, but it's one of those things where, let's say like your son went on your account, right? You could see in the watch history, and then you'd be like, what were you doing? I wasn't watching Daredevil.
Yeah.
Who watched it? You know, because at that point that falls into like, the parents' hands and stuff like that.
It does.
So it's like, what do you want them to do?
Not put it on?
Well, I mean, I think that's a perfect workaround, though.
I mean, it's basically you just turn Disney Plus into Netflix.
If you enable it, yes.
I mean, it's the same thing. You can do the exact same thing with Netflix.
Because
you have parental restrictions you can apply to Netflix, create different profiles, kids profiles, and all that. It's basically you just made Disney Plus Netflix. Well, because that means they're going to integrate all of the 20th Century Fox titles, R-rated titles I'm talking about.
And you can enable it.
And all of their other features, because they owned, before 20th Century Fox, they also owned multiple other production houses, like Touchstone is one.
Right.
And a bunch of others. So that means that they're going to start integrating that in, and effectively they're just going to turn Disney Plus into Netflix.
It's true, but
which the part of that I don't understand is that you're altering the Disney brand, how people see the Disney brand, which has been something they've been so incredibly and intensely protective over for the entirety of this company's lifespan until now, to do something that you could easily have just integrated into your other platform that you own, Hulu, which is already made for that stuff. So I don't really get their reasoning other than greed, just pure greed. The people that run Disney now.
It's the all-in-one place thing.
Yeah, but they don't have it all in one place. They own Disney, they own Hulu, they own multiple different things. So it's like, why not just use the other thing that you already have, unless you're planning on getting rid of Hulu? If we find that, all of a sudden they're looking to offload Hulu, now I understand.
Yeah.
They're preparing to offload Hulu and literally just create another Netflix just with all of their properties. But outside of that, it is interesting to me that this is a company that has been intensely, and I do mean intensely, protective of the Disney brand as a family-friendly brand. Everything associated with Disney had to be family-friendly. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The slightest thing could trigger them to be like, we cannot associate that. We can put that under one of our separate umbrellas, but it cannot go under Disney. I mean, they did that for the entirety of this company's history up until right now. And I think that's what a lot of people are taking note of, is like, this is a huge departure for Disney.
Yeah, it's funny though, because like in recent years, they've acquired so much IP that wasn't originally theirs. like Fox being one of them.
Yeah.
Star Wars, obviously, another one. Just IPs that they didn't create themselves. They just ended up buying over the course of the
But
franchise.
a lot of those major IPs all fell under, they were brands that made sense for Disney.
Star Wars, you know, they
Star
licensed
Wars,
for a
even
while.
a lot of Marvel,
Muppets, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But another thing that I think's cool is for the profiles too, in order to make changes on it, you could enter a pin. You know what I mean? You have to enter a pin, so if you don't tell your kid the pin, they can't watch it. But it's, I don't know. It's
all the same. I mean, you have that on every platform I'm aware of.
It's all the same.
HBO does that. Netflix
but I also
does
feel
that.
like if a parent's like, let's say you want to watch Punisher, but you don't want your kids watching Punisher. Right? If you really want to watch that bad and you don't want them to have access to it, you can enable it, watch your 2 episodes. After you're done, go back in settings, disable it. There you go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's just like,
yeah, I'm not arguing the functionality. I'm just saying it's the same as Netflix. You just turn Disney Plus into Netflix.
If you want it to be, yeah.
Like I'm talking about, like, just flatly, like, from a, you know, logistical standpoint, you literally just took all of your stuff, you're going to, not thoroughly yet, but that's clearly the direction they're headed.
Like putting like the alien movies and stuff on there because
yeah.
that's Fox.
I mean, because if you're going to put R-rated stuff on there and create a parental, you know, literally TV mature, or which is rated R for television.
TVM, MA.
Yeah, MA or whatever. Like, what's going to be the barrier after that? They've already lifted it. So they're going to be like, oh, well, we're already doing that.
Right. This is clearly the first step. Where, yeah.
They're clearly greasing the skids to just go on and put all of their content onto the Disney Plus platform, or the majority of it.
In the
or
Marvel
good chunk, anyway.
In the Marvel sense, I feel like it makes, because if it's in the MCU, they just confirm it's in the MCU. Of course, they would want it all in one place. The only reason why Spider-Man isn't on there is because of the Sony agreement, or else Spider-Man would be on there too.
Yeah, I think now with them clearly integrating, you know, these Netflix characters into the MCU, yeah, it definitely makes sense. I mean, I see why they're doing it, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, you know, it's the same thing as like they're doing Deadpool, and they've already committed to continuing Deadpool to be rated R. It's like, okay, you're going to do that, but the idea that I understood is, while it's still going to be Marvel, it's going to be done under the 20th Century Fox banner, right? So my thinking would be,
Multiverse of Madness might change that, though. There's rumors going around that Deadpool is going to be introduced in Multiverse of Madness and bring him in proper. Yeah.
Yeah. Do we know that, though? Is that just
it's a rumor?
Yeah.
But but he's in the poster. We looked at it here on the podcast. I showed you that he's in the poster.
I don't know. I still am not 100% sure that's Deadpool. But if it is, you know, and they do alter that in some way, but I'm basically going off of what Kevin Feige said before, which was, yeah, we're going to allow Deadpool 3 to be rated R, and they're going to do their thing.
It's not going to restrict Reynolds and stuff.
And it's like, okay, that's the character, that's the book, all of that stuff. So the expectation was that was going to be Marvel Studios, but it was going to go under the 20th Century Fox logo, right? And that made sense. This is, you're now incorporating R-rated stuff under Marvel and Disney. So there's that separation that no longer exists, and now you're making the Disney brand a brand that is just doing R-rated material.
Yeah, it kind of gets weird though, right? Because it's like everything, because you got Disney, and then you have brands that they own: Marvel, Star Wars, Pixar, Nat Geo, all that stuff. So it's like it's all on Disney Plus, but as far as studio wise, it's not Disney.
Yeah.
Because like, even Marvel Studios, that's not Disney. It's Marvel Studios. It's just owned by Disney. You know, so it's like this weird. There's just so many like different layers to it.
I just think, I think for people that are longtime fans of Disney and have associated, you grew up. I'm a huge Disney fan myself. You grew up, there was a direct association with Disney and family friendly content. So when Disney announced that they were releasing their streaming service, I think a lot of families subscribe to that right away with the anticipation of, this is a family safe environment for my kids. I can let them put that on. I don't have to worry about it. That sort of a thing. I don't have to go in. I don't have to deal with, because as a longtime parent, it gets annoying. There's so many different things constantly everywhere. And as a parent, you're constantly having to figure out the next new technology, the next new platform, put on parental features, make sure that your kids aren't getting into things that are not appropriate for them, and that sort of a thing. And there's so much of it, it gets really overwhelming for parents. And I think the part of that was Disney, you know, the part of the great thing about Disney for parents was they felt that was like a safe zone. Yeah. Where they didn't have to, that was one's going to be just one more thing that I got to deal with parental whatevers and PIN numbers and blah, 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 blah. And so that now that's changing. So that now, so I think that it's not ultimately is the end of no, everybody's got Netflix, like whatever. The crap is everywhere. Kids got phones in their hands, they can go freaking watch
that's what I was
the worst things imaginable, way worse things they're gonna put on there. It's more just the deviation of like, Walt Disney built this to be a specific brand.
Yeah.
It was always maintained that way. It was very protective of specifically the Disney logo. And this is a deviation from that. And I think that I understand the people that are pointing that out. Like, why you have another platform to do it. Why would you deviate from that? Because this is only the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
That's the main point. If it was just Marvel, then probably people would be like, oh, okay. But that's not going to be
I'm wondering, ultimately, you kind of alluded to it earlier, though, that it will all, because it makes sense. Just anything in business, whether it's a website, it's a YouTube channel, whatever, you want everything to be in one spot.
Yep.
It's the easiest for the consumer. It's the best bang for your buck. So, like, I feel like, I know, I'm no freaking $1 billion CEO, but as a consumer standpoint, I feel like it would make more sense to ultimately have everything all in one spot. Where if you get Disney Plus, you have everything Disney owns. Like, why would I know they do the bundle thing now, where you get Hulu and you get ESPN, but it's like you're having to switch between different things when it's just from a consumer standpoint. It's just easier to literally have everything in one app. I
actually really liked the original, and this is just my taste. Everybody has their own. I actually really liked the original simplicity of Disney Plus, where they just it was 4 categories.
Yeah.
You knew, okay, these are Disney original films. Here's Pixar, here's Marvel, here's Star Wars.
It's still pretty much like that.
For the most part.
Yeah.
But my point is, by them breaking this seal, look at all the other, just in the last couple of months, the Nat Geo stuff has exploded. They started adding all this other stuff from television and ABC. Now 20th Century Fox stuff is going up, and it's just turning into Netflix. And so, that for me, just from that vantage point, it was like, if I want the TV show, all these different TV shows from ABC and all this kind of stuff, that's what I've got Hulu for, right? You have Hulu. I've got Hulu.
Do you think like one day, because obviously like anything in the world, things are going to evolve, constantly changing, especially as Disney keeps buying up the world. If it's all under Disney Plus, but once you click Disney Plus, then within the Disney Plus,
there's like a Hulu section.
Yes.
That would make a ton of sense.
Right? I feel
like if they did it that way, where they really broke it. And that's why I say, like, I would be curious to watch now to see if there's, not right away, obviously, but at some point in the future, if we find out that Disney's looking to either offload Hulu or even integrate it into Disney Plus, and they do something like what you're talking about, where it's like you click on Disney Plus and then all of a sudden it opens up Hulu, and it's like ESPN. 20th Century Fox, Hulu, ESPN, Disney Plus.
Right.
You know what I mean? And based on whatever your subscription is, that unlocks the different ones.
Because I think that'd just be cool. It's just like cool, like what you do on a computer, like folders and files, right? Where you open it up and then you have your Marvel Studios folder, your Star Wars, 20th Century Fox, Hulu, ABC, and you could literally, it would be like, Disney is the country, and then you open it up, you see all the states.
Yeah.
Like, I think that'd be really cool.
I think that would make a lot of sense. And then you could do that whole, you would have Disney by itself, and everything Disney related could stay in that lane.
Right.
You know what I mean? And even you could even separate Marvel out from the Disney and just have Marvel have its own lane, that sort of a thing. So, but as it stands right now, it's all kind of just jumbled together. You can click on the different tabs.
You can,
and it'll separate everything out into categories. But when you first log in, it's all just kind of there.
Yeah. I was just surprised. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Cause I was actually wondering myself, I'm like, that's actually kind of shocking that they're just going to throw rated R stuff just on Disney Plus.
Well,
I was like, how are they
going
to handle that? See, I didn't think that they were going to add some kind of two-factor, because it is a two-factor. I took screenshots of it and tweeted it because I was like, I can't be the only one having this problem.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, where the freak is it? And I had to find out. I'm like, oh, so I tweeted out. I'm like, for anyone wondering, you have to do that. You have to click it twice and enable it, and then you have the full catalog.
Yeah.
So I think that's really clever on their part for the people who don't want to have access.
They had announced they were going to do that.
I feel like it's the only way.
They actually did it overseas first.
Yes, it was I feel like that's the only way to do it, because like you said, a lot of people be like, I do it all the time too. I have a little kid account for my daughter. I'm just going there. I know she can pretty much watch anything on there. So it makes sense that they would now have like a verification for the normal side, because it's like, hey, now they could potentially click on rated R stuff. So for me, that works.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to do it, I mean, you got to, it's definitely the only alternative, really.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's more, again, not to beat a dead horse, but it's really more it stands out as a notable thing that Disney is, after 100 years of existence, essentially, that they're deviating from that purely protective, family-friendly brand. This is who Disney is, and they're just kind of moving in a direction. This new leadership is moving the brand in a direction of just very, just like a Netflix.
I'm curious.
It's just like a broad entertainment company, and it's all integrated in together, and we're not really concerned about.
It's a very curious thing, especially for diehard Disney fans, because we know if Disney was alive, just in general, like the parks wouldn't even be the way they are.
No.
You know what I mean? Like he wanted Epcot and stuff to be completely different than what they ended up to be.
They went in a much more corporate direction, especially in modern years.
And I don't think he would have allowed, or wanted or chased after like a Star Wars or a Marvel.
Yeah, but, I don't know. Walt was a lot more open to change in terms of diversifying than people give him credit for. He was the one it's his famous quote.
Or watch, he actually evolved more. He's like, no, we got to change with the times. We need rated R.
Yeah, no, I don't think he would have done that. The whole purpose of Disney was to create an environment where parents and kids could enjoy things together. That was literally his sole purpose of everything that he did. And the diversification that he was more than open to was, as time changed, as new technologies presented themselves, as new, storylines and things like that. He was the one who said that, Disney World would never be done. Disneyland would never be finished. And it's that famous quote on which most of the Disney brand has built. It's monolith.
And they keep building and expanding.
They just keep doing. So
I don't think so much land.
Yeah. In Florida. Yeah. In Florida. Yeah. They wish he would have bought more in California. I guarantee you that. But yeah, I think that's the only notable thing. Everything else is just kind of like the stereotypical. Yeah, this is what they do on Netflix. It's the same thing they do on HBO.
Speaking of Netflix, blah, blah, blah. Very, very random, and we'll move on after that. But I was going to watch something last night on Netflix, and you know how every year it pops up, they're like, hey, our price is increasing.
Yeah.
So, okay. When I first got Netflix, which was obviously years ago, like streaming Netflix, because for those of you who don't remember, Netflix used to be, you get like 3 DVDs sent to you and then you send them back. There was no streaming.
You can still do that.
Can you really?
You can still get,
Shut up.
I swear to you, that is still part of the service. You can still get discs delivered. DVD and Blu-ray.
Is having discs delivered in 2022.
Believe it or not, there is a lot of people around the country and that still do that.
Is hilarious.
It's a dwindling service.
But that's what I was going to say. So for them to still be offering that, they still have a decent amount of people who are doing it.
It's significant enough.
That's crazy. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Anyway, when I first got Netflix, it was probably like $7. $7 a month. $7, $8 a month. Gradually has gone up. So last night I saw that the price hike at the beginning of next month, my Netflix is now going to cost me $15.49. That is literally more than double than when I originally signed up at. Given it's been years,
sure.
but let's say like, I don't know, how long is Netflix streaming? Probably a decade for sure. Yeah, over a decade. Anyway, let's leave it at a decade. Let's just say 10 years, right? Should it double in 10 years? More than double in 10 years?
I mean, you got to realize, we're in a different
different
world now,
so
man.
Crazy. Okay, here's my argument.
Can you name me one thing that has not doubled in the last 10 years?
Here's my argument. This is probably why it's making me so angry. Because you still have Disney Plus, which I feel is just as comparable as Netflix. That's like what, $8 a month, $9.
Disney Plus?
Yeah, this was like, let's say it's 10. Let's go high because I know it's under 10.
I think it's $8.99.
Okay, so let's just say 10.
I think.
Let's give them the extra $1. It's $9.99. That is still $5.50 cheaper than Netflix and Disney Plus, like we've just been talking about for the last 15 minutes.
Right.
Everything Star Wars, everything Marvel, everything Nat Geo, everything Pixar, and guess what? Everything Disney. So how is Netflix out here having the audacity? This really makes me angry. Having the audacity to charge $5.50 more. To stay competitive, I feel you need to be equal.
I will say I have not done this. I would be very curious to see how much different the libraries of content are in terms of volume.
Yeah, Netflix probably still has
versus
more.
Disney. I would be willing to bet Netflix dwarfs Disney Plus.
Yeah.
In terms of volume. And all of that is contracts that they have to pay out. Unlike Disney, who owns the properties, Netflix has to pay for that crap. Except for their original stuff, obviously.
Now, I'm not trying to bash Netflix. I love Netflix. They have a ton of great shows on there, original movies, original series. Netflix and Disney Plus are my two.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not canceling Netflix either. I'm gonna pay the $15.50, and they know that. Okay,
this is why they get away with it. This is how they do it.
I'm not here to be like, I'm gonna cancel it. I'm gonna show them, because it's not gonna show them. I'm keeping it. So
they're not even gonna send you an "I miss you" email.
Yeah, no, it won't matter.
I'm
not gonna be one of those people. But my point is, though, like, what are, especially like in our realm or just pop culture in general, what is everyone mostly talking about nowadays as far as like TV, like
streaming?
Well, I'm sorry, but like most of the stuff Disney has.
Oh, yeah,
like it's the Marvel shows, it's Star Wars, like that's like huge. Now, don't get me wrong. I know Apple TV Plus has great hits. I know Hulu has stuff. Everyone has their own, but like
Hulu's Disney.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there we go. Hulu is Disney. See, prove my point even more. So it's like, it's just how do you find that, like, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
Netflix is still the top dog, though.
Yeah,
they have
but they've
more
been around
subscribers than
yeah.
Disney by quite a bit.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's just weird to me that it's like, because Disney Plus has been around. They're a baby still. They're in their third year now.
Oh yeah,
second third year.
This is the beginning of we're in the early portion of the third year.
Third year, right? And they've already like amassed. They've grown so much quicker than that. Like they're gonna catch up in a few years here.
I mean, it's looking like it.
If they maintain pace, which the way they're pumping out this Marvel, Star Wars,
like
and stuff,
it will happen eventually.
And now they're going to incorporate like all 20th Century Fox. Like it's just.
I honestly, at the end, that's why I mentioned the greed portion when we were talking about it, because I honestly think that's the goal: is they want to be number one. They want to surpass Netflix. They want to supplant them as the largest streaming platform.
It's just
that means that they have to substantially increase. They didn't buy all these things for nothing.
It's just,
you know what I mean?
It's just like, I don't know. I would feel like they'd want to be at least comparable, like maybe $1 or $2 more, almost $6 higher than Disney Plus.
It's quite a bit.
And then,
but you got to imagine Disney Plus is going to raise their prices soon too, because they already raised it, I think, twice.
I was going to say they already have, because it started at like $6.99.
Yeah. Well, I got mine before they launched it, and I got like dirt cheap. It ended up being like, it was like $3.50 a month or something like that, because I did a 3-year thing.
Yeah.
And they were like pretty much giving it away up front, which was really smart.
You know what? Another thing too. I'm gonna Google it, so I'm not talking my butt here. But I believe their bundle with Hulu, ESPN, and Disney Plus is still cheaper than just Netflix. I'm gonna look that up. I believe so. I'm gonna look it up.
Well, I mean, I guess that's not surprising, because Hulu is a pretty in demand streaming service. I would say it's not comparable to Netflix or Disney Plus or I don't know where Apple TV is now. Their service is pretty young too, and I don't know how demand Apple Plus has been. I actually don't hear a lot of people talking about Apple's streaming service. Occasionally, someone will bring up one of the series that's on there, and they say, "Oh, it's really good. You should check it out." But it doesn't seem like they're doing a massive volume of content, but it also, I don't hear a ton of chatter about what's on Apple Plus. And that might just be me missing that. Maybe you guys, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on that. But it seems like still Netflix, HBO, obviously Disney Plus, and even Hulu. A lot of the shows are putting on Hulu. They do a lot of original stuff for Hulu, and some of that's really good, like Dopesick.
Dopesick is good.
Dopesick was phenomenal, Michael Keaton. But I feel like that kind of still dominates the around the water cooler talk,
So Business Insider.
Do we still do around the water cooler?
Found it on Business Insider. Found it. So you can get the bundle, which is Hulu, ESPN, and Disney Plus, $14 a month. $1.50 cheaper.
That's $3 more than what it was just about a year and a half ago, though.
It's still $1.50. I can't.
It's a Dolly Parton.
It's a dolly. It's still $1.50 cheaper than just Netflix.
Yeah, that's true.
That's crazy, and you're getting 3 streaming platforms.
I want to know what the volume is, though. Yeah. Because I would not be surprised, honestly, because Netflix has been doing this so long and they have so many contracts. I would not be surprised, and that's not even touching on their original content
Mm-hmm.
that they've bought, because a lot of their original content, Netflix originals, they didn't actually produce. Other people produce them, and they just buy them, and then they just throw them up as a Netflix original. But I would not be surprised at all to learn that Netflix has the same as or greater volume than Disney Plus, Hulu, and HBO combined.
Sure.
ESPN too is kind of like one of those things. I feel like that's like a little,
Yeah,
one of those little
yeah,
tab
it's-
add-ons
it's
for
not
people that
like-
are sports fans. It's like, for an extra $2, you can have ESPN Plus.
Well,
I don't
Hulu-
know why it's a New York salesperson like lady.
Well, Hulu's been around. I would actually say before Disney Plus and before like HBO Max and like, Apple TV Plus and Peacock. Like it's been Hulu and
I
Netflix.
forgot about Peacock.
Peacock. It's been like Hulu and Netflix.
Goodness.
For years.
Yeah.
Like Netflix was first, and then the big rival after that was Hulu.
Mhm.
Hulu's
Yeah,
like the big. They were like the Coke and Pepsi for a
Yeah,
very
yeah.
long time.
And
So,
then everybody at once just went, we got a streaming platform
Dude.
too.
everyone.
Do you have
Every-
Peacock?
I just canceled it.
Oh, you got.
I had it for the holidays because they had a lot of Christmas specials that my daughter wanted to
Mm.
watch, but I just canceled it.
I have never watched anything on Peacock.
Yeah,
the
like
other one is
Paramount Plus.
I saw I think the first episode or the first couple episodes of Picard. I got
That's Paramount, or is
I
that
got
Peacock?
Paramount for like a minute.
It's Paramount.
It's
Okay.
Paramount, yeah.
Yep.
So I got it for like a minute because everything's CBS and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
I got it for like a minute just to check out Picard,
Mm-hmm.
and I watched like the first episode or two, and then I got busy, forgot about the show, and then it was just one of those things where it's just like, oh, you're paying for this every month, and I wasn't watching it at all.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm just gonna cancel because I wasn't watching anything.
Did you like Picard though? Did you watch the first episode?
Yeah, I thought it was good.
Is your-
It wasn't like crazy or anything.
Does it pick up from Next Generation? I'm assuming, obviously.
It's kind of it's part of that
All
that
right.
world.
Yeah.
That end of Star Wars mythos
Star Trek.
or Star Trek.
Yeah.
Star Wars. So used to saying Star Wars.
Yeah. But anyway, all that to say,
Arris is upset about Netflix raising their prices.
Dude, I feel like this is happening every other month with Netflix. Probably last time it's annually, obviously, because I just remember this. I think it was last year when they hiked it up to like $14. So
Yeah.
it's like $1 every year essentially.
Yeah.
But it's like,
I mean, I would honestly, this would be a fun challenge. If anybody can find me something that hasn't doubled in price in the last 10 years, I would love to see that list.
they're like, they're like, oh, gas is going up, and they'll pay like, $5, $6 a gallon. They'll definitely pay an extra $1 a month for Netflix.
Yeah. Jeez. Yeah, it's been fun. It's a fun ride. Thanks for bringing that up.
Anyway, more Disney Plus, more streaming talk.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Kenobi.
It is in the same lane.
same
Good Lord.
Kenobi.
That's crazy.
So we talked
Oh
about
my God! Are all the major topics today are Disney owned?
see what I'm saying? This is my point. When are we talking about Netflix shows, huh?
Dude, that's crazy. Well, we did talk. To be fair, we did talk about almost all of DC last week.
We did. Actually, Cobra Kai is Netflix, so I mean. Yeah, Cobra Kai is-
Cobra
yeah.
Kai.
Again, I love Netflix. I'm just mad a little bit right now, okay?
Yeah. He's very worked up. But Netflix, you're okay.
So the Kenobi series, when they first announced this, we theorized on the show.
Yeah.
The internet was talking like, what are they gonna do? Like we knew where it took place, right?
Mhm.
That it was 5
Mhm.
years after Revenge of the Sith, 5 years before A New Hope.
Yep.
So it's like a 10-year gap total in, between Revenge of the Sith and New Hope and all that stuff.
Mhm.
So it's like they could do a lot of things.
A lot of things.
A lot of things. And one of the things we theorized was Darth Maul.
Yeah.
We
Big-
were
big one.
right, Tim.
Dang
we
it.
were right, and then they changed it.
They built us up just to rip us down.
No,
I'm hoping
freaking
that
joke.
this is still. I'm hoping. I'm still hopeful, gang. Despite what we're about to say, there's still hope in me yet.
So what I mean by we were right, and anyone else who guessed this, is that Darth Maul was intended and going to be the villain, the main villain for this
Yeah.
series.
That was an interesting twist.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is all broke about 2 days ago. Hollywood Reporter announced it. Then it went on, everywhere. So here's the headline for Hollywood Reporter: Obi-Wan Kenobi, Darth Maul scenes cut. Luke Skywalker replaced during creative overhaul.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And that explains, this is what we talked about just before we went live here, that explains the delay in Kenobi initially.
yes, yeah, we were talking about like what happened.
Yeah. because it was full steam ahead, and then there was a delay, and they shelved it for a minute, and then back at it. So this explains that change.
Mm-hmm. But it gets deeper because we get some Filoni Favreau action in here because they had apparently a big hand in this.
Always fun to hear from the double Fs.
So sources tell The Hollywood Reporter not only was the Sith Lord initially slated to return to live-action Disney Plus series as the key villain, actor Ray Park was also an active prep to reprise his role as Darth Maul. Dude was full on training, doing his lightsaber combat. He was ready, Tim.
He
was
Ray
all
Park.
about it. He's like, yes, I just did this with season 7 of the Clone Wars. I did the mocap. Now I get to do it like full on. They're gonna put me in the makeup, prosthetics. Let's do this. And then they were like, hey Ray, remember how we said you need to get in shape and do all that stuff for Darth Maul again? Maybe not.
Or did they?
Or did they? You're like still holding on. You're like, no, he's in there somewhere.
It could happen. It could happen. Listen, there's a way to have both, okay?
Well, let me read this next line. That, however, was before those scenes were scrapped amid a creative overhaul that ultimately saw other antagonists, including Darth Vader, added to the show.
Or did they?
Now, first thing here, I'm Kathleen Kennedy. Yes. I'm like, Tim, the choice is yours. Obi-Wan Kenobi, we're doing it. But I'm going to let you choose the villain. Darth Maul, Vader. You pick. Who do you pick?
Like, how fast can you say Darth Vader?
Right. Okay, so that's the thing. So, like, as much as this is like
she wouldn't have even finished her sentence. It wouldn't even gotten all the way out. Okay, Tim, so I'm going to let you Darth Vader. Darth Vader. That's good? We're good on that? Am I right? You're saying I can use Darth Vader. You're saying that. I just want a clarification. You're saying I can use Darth Vader because I'm going to use Darth Vader until I die.
So that's kind of my point, right? Like, I love Darth Maul. He's like one of my top 3 favorites. He's probably my second favorite Sith. Definitely top 3, right? But I feel like most, I'm not going to say all because, nothing's absolute, but most Star Wars fans would be like, yeah, Darth Vader, duh. I want to see him.
In this particular setting, especially.
Yeah, especially with Obi-Wan, right.
It's just like...
It's weird, though, because you could argue that besides Vader,
but no.
Maul and freaking Kenobi have that rivalry, too, because he killed him.
Yeah, but
he killed Qui-Gon, his master.
They don't have the same history.
I agree with you.
They don't have the same romance.
I agree. I'm just saying, like, it's Vader. Like, as far as Obi-Wan
no comparison.
Villains go, it's like Vader, Maul.
Yeah.
So, like,
they literally came face to face, what, twice?
Yeah, but yes. Yeah.
I'm okay in the live action. I'm not counting Clone Wars and Rebels.
Yeah, well, that's a big reason, actually, as the article goes on. That's actually a big reason why it ultimately seemed like they took him out, because they felt, well, it was resolved in Rebels.
Yeah.
Whereas, spoiler alert, Obi-Wan killed Maul in Rebels.
Right.
So that was resolved, and we got a lot of Darth Maul in Clone Wars.
Yeah.
We got a lot of Maul in Rebels. So they're like, we already kind of did a lot of Maul.
Yeah.
So we're not going to just do it again just so you have him live action.
And I will say, there's probably going to be fans that say, yeah, but they resolved it with Obi-Wan and Darth Vader, too.
Yes.
I mean, that's a fair argument.
No, it is fair. Like,
fair argument.
Like,
you're going to have a lot of Star Wars fans going to say that.
It's this weird, because even though I'm saying that, it's like, I still would want to see Maul live action, too, because I want Ray Park.
Yeah.
I want Ray Park
That's
to do
why
Maul
I
live
say,
action.
Or did they? This could be the surprise. Like, they could be telling us this. That doesn't mean that Darth Maul will not appear. It just means he's not the main villain.
Because if they could set him up for season 2, right?
Yeah. They could do a lot of things. They could be setting him up for other series.
Mm-hmm.
They could be, just expanding that to where I would love, double love to see what the interaction between Vader and Maul would look like.
Oh, man.
I think everybody wants to see that.
Dude.
I mean, we saw a little bit of it already
Dude, because
but I'm saying in live action.
Because freaking Maul would be pissed because he's like, oh, so you're the new apprentice.
Yeah.
Like, you took my spot.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Let's do that. Let's do that. So that would be a
first
fun...
Dooku, now you. He never loved me.
So I'm curious how they would mix the two, but there's certainly ways to do it, and I remain hopeful. That's what I'm saying. I remain hopeful.
Well, it gets deeper, Tim. We're going down this rabbit hole. So the article goes on to say, and while it was reported that pre-production paused in early 2020 because Lucasfilm was unhappy with the scripts, the reasoning behind the pause was a little more layered. According to sources, Chow showed the scripts to Star Wars stewards Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau.
Can we pause right there? That's very worth noting
Yeah.
because we said that here
Yeah.
multiple times. I find it very hard to believe, even though they are not credited as being a part of the series, that Chow, being an understudy of Favreau and Filoni on The Mandalorian, that she was not going to be looking to them for guidance as she developed a story and did this. That right there confirms.
Yes.
And that means that while they're not actually technically involved, technically speaking, that means it's going to have their tone to some degree and their tempo.
Have you heard the term ghost writers?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Just the lingering overlords.
So she showed the scripts to them. And then it goes on to say who are coming off the success of Mandalorian, freshly launched November 2019, and deep into work on season 2. So this is while they were currently writing and working on season 2. Sources noted that Filoni and Favreau were concerned about Obi-Wan covering similar ground as Mandalorian, the lone wolf and cub-like story of Kenobi coming out of hiding to protect a child-aged Luke Skywalker.
It's like Star Wars Lion King.
Right, but they were basically concerned. They're like, that's kind of very similar to what we're doing with Mando and the child. So we don't know if you should do that with Obi-Wan and a 10-year-old Luke, and then have Maul be like the Gideon, I suppose, of the show.
I mean, it makes sense.
Gideon, yeah. So,
and they may have other plans as well.
That's true.
Because they're not going to tell us everything here.
No, this is just like basically someone's an inside source. Like, hey, Hollywood reporter.
Yeah, this is just like the little bits, the little nuggets they're willing to let us in on. So they may have also spun that out into other plans. But what we can do, one of those conversations is like, well, let's not do that because of this. But what we can do, you know what I mean?
But this concept, although similar, it seemed kind of cool because it goes on to say Maul was going to be one of the villains who would participate in the hunt for the pair. Vader was nowhere to be found in this faraway galaxy at this stage, according to those with the knowledge of the project. So that means Vader was not. That's actually kind of crazy to me. That Vader was because
he wasn't
going to appear. Yeah. It was all going to be Kenobi, Maul, and a 10-year-old Luke.
That is the most interesting part of this whole thing,
right? Because when we first heard of it and they said like Vader's going to come and they announced kind of what it's going to be about. That's like. I feel like that's where you would first go. It's like, yeah, let's just essentially do a sequel to Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
Because like we were just kind of saying a second ago, sure, Maul has all the motives and revenge in the world to want to come after Obi-Wan. But one, we've already seen that in Clone Wars and Rebels. And two, I would imagine most Star Wars fans would much rather, especially since we haven't seen it in any form, much rather see the rematch of the century, as Disney's dubbing it, Obi-Wan and Vader, aka Anakin Skywalker.
Well, we're not the only ones that were thinking that way. It says right here in the conversations that Chow was having with Dave and Dave Filoni. Oh, what am I saying here?
Dave Filoni.
Favreau and Filoni. So in his conversations that they were challenging her to go bigger.
It does say that. Yes, it does.
So that's their thinking too. They're just like, hey, this is kind of similar to what we did. What if you did something even bigger?
Can you imagine though, like you have like these scripts and you're in a room or at their house or whatever showing Favreau and Filoni and they're like, this is cool, but what if you use Vader? It's like,
I can just see Favreau. Or Filoni. I'm sorry, Filoni. I can just see Filoni sitting in the room going, you know what you could do?
Yeah.
Actually. And then because I imagine, who knows, we might find out otherwise, but I could see Filoni already having these thoughts, having played them out in his mind, thought of them, walked it through and go, actually, something that you could do that I've thought about, and then Favreau just going,
you know what I feel? He's like,
I'll back that.
He's like, I've actually had conversations with George, and this is something we've talked about.
Dude,
what do you think about doing something like this?
I could see that happening.
For sure.
And we're not saying it did. I'm saying I could see it.
That like in my brain's like when I'm like, what if like in that meeting they're actually like, well, actually, let me just call up George real quick, and they put him on speakerphone,
no, for real,
like,
yeah,
and they use them like to bounce things off of. But yeah, it says in any case, when they challenged her to go bigger, those concerns made their way all the way up to the head of Lucasfilm, which is obviously Kathleen Kennedy, and she was like, boop, pause, and then the show ultimately became what we know now, where it's Obi-Wan versus his former Padawan, Darth Vader.
Or is it?
Dude, but it's so much like, again, I would have loved to see Maul, and if that's where they went, I would be happy. But then if I found out the flip where it's like Maul, but they were gonna use Vader, I think I would be mad. I'd be like, wait. So you use Maul? Because what if we're doing the flip right now, where we know we're getting Maul, but they're like, we're gonna use Vader.
You can't do that. You can't do that. No,
dude. Because seeing Hayden Christensen back as Vader, apparently too.
Crazy.
I don't know if you saw this, and because I didn't tell you, but Ewan McGregor was on an interview with Entertainment Weekly, and he basically confirmed that we're getting flashback scenes of him and Anakin.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Oh, you did? So he said in that interview without saying, like, it kind of like
I've
came
been staying away from a lot of the interviews and stuff like that.
Oh, so did I spoil
on
that for
purpose?
you?
Yes, you did. Thanks
okay.
a lot. I appreciate that. That was a spoiler right here live.
He said in the interview that it was crazy that he's looking at Hayden Christensen and he's Anakin, and he's looking, and I'm looking at myself and I'm Obi-Wan again. I'm like, it's like time hasn't passed. It's like we're back on, the old movies again.
That's crazy.
So in that sentence, obviously the internet blew up. He's like, he just confirmed there's a flashback scene. Because he didn't say Vader, he said Anakin Skywalker. He just confirmed the flashback scene.
Wow. I guess that's not that shocking,
dude,
but still. Because they're both still young enough to where it'll probably look almost identical.
This is like what I said, a podcast. This is literally going to be a sequel to the Revenge of the Sith.
That's nutty.
So that means
that's good.
But it also explains why they got Hayden Christensen, because they're going to be using actually Hayden Christensen, because you could use anyone in a Darth Vader costume.
I wonder if that's how we see Darth Maul.
Oh, that could be cool.
Like there's, you know what I mean? It's long after.
I mean, they said it.
Because remember, cuts.
You're still hanging on to this, though.
They said I'm hopeful. I said it. I feel because look, you put Ray Park through training. They say that.
I'm sure I'm sure they had to cut him a check,
maybe test footage. Oh, what are you kidding me?
Yeah, I was saying he still got paid.
Yeah, but I'm saying like if you already put him through that, there's definitely ways you can work him in without him being the main bad, and without doing that storyline. Because you're still doing the Obi-Wan protecting Luke Skywalker story. You're still doing that.
Yeah.
Right. It's just you've changed it. So that's why I kind of am leaning towards like this is just what they're telling us. Like. You're not going to leave Darth Maul on the table. That's not going to happen. Well, they're going to use him for something.
Especially their tease with Crimson Dawn and stuff at the end
and clearly they've already got him on the brain.
Yeah.
Right? They were full on going to use him for the series.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm saying is there's ways you can still work him in as a side story and we still get Maul. Like, could you imagine if we see Maul fight Obi-Wan and Anakin before Anakin turns in a flashback? Like in one of their side, they're hunting down a mystery because the Empire is still just emerging.
Yeah.
And because now they're telling us he's already alive. They're going to make it to where he was alive. Well, we already know that.
We already know that. Clone Wars
what am I
stuff.
talking about? Yeah. So, but I'm saying in live action, they're going to look to find a way to get him to bring him back. I mean, you only got so much time with Ray Park. You can't wait 20 years.
You know what I would even like more, which would kind of be cool, is if they introduce Maul's brother, Savage Opress. And they're like, ha.
Why can't you do both?
You could. I mean, but I'm just saying, because like, we know we got the Inquisitors.
Yeah.
You know you got Vader.
Yeah.
Like, that alone, do you need any more?
No.
Right? So it's like, if you throw Maul in there,
But you could use
Savage.
Maul to lead us to
You could.
Savage Opress.
You could.
I'm saying. I'm hopeful.
It's just crazy that like
this is my statement of the day.
That's what it was gonna be. Favreau and Filoni were like, yeah, but go big or go home. The ultimate.
That's legit.
The ultimate like home run trump card is Vader in Star Wars, right? So it's like use him, which is nuts.
I wonder if Favreau is a little bit like, dang it, why didn't I think of that?
Well, he was. Oh, you know what I mean? Assuming he wasn't the one who told her that.
Yeah, I'm saying to where it's like this is what we did this.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Because they're gonna have no credit on it.
It is interesting that like
they probably don't care.
No, because that's another thing.
Those are two great creators.
Filoni he's the chief creative officer.
Yeah.
So he's overseeing everything going on at Lucasfilm.
He's the creative director. Yeah.
So that's crazy. That's just kind of crazy.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah, I'm super excited, but it's just crazy that we were initially right and everyone else who guessed that was right. But then they're like, Darth Maul is really, really cool. He has a massive following, but you know who has an even bigger following? Vader.
Yeah.
So use him.
Really, honestly, that was epically smart catch by Favreau Filoni to nudge them in that direction. And also a lot of credit to Kathleen Kennedy.
For
I know she gets a lot of heat, even from us sometimes.
Yeah.
A lot of credit to her for recognizing that, putting it, like literally putting it to a halt and letting them revamp that and bring this version of the show to us, because this is head and shoulders the better way to go, in my view.
Lucasfilm has been like in apology mode for like the last few years because we all know, we're not gonna get into it, we all know how the sequel trilogy was received, especially by the diehard Star Wars fans.
By Star Wars fans.
Yeah. And then after that, we got Mandalorian season 1 and 2, 3 is coming. We're getting Ahsoka.
Yeah.
We got Boba Fett, Andor, Kenobi, like, and all this stuff is in the time period of the Star Wars that most diehards love.
Right.
They're not sequel stuff. It's like prequel or like filling in gaps between like OG Star Wars.
Yep.
So again, I feel like they're just like, okay, maybe we'll go back to the past.
It's an interesting mix though, right? Because I mean, money talks ultimately.
Right.
Right. So like one of the bread and butters that we know from the Star Wars IP as a whole, right, is the merchandise.
For sure.
Right. We all know the merchandise for the last trilogy did not do so well for them. Right. And it was still dwarfed by, you know, the legacy characters.
Yeah.
And then even now, when the Mandalorian stuff came out, it just blew that out of the water.
You know how many freaking Grogu's they probably sold?
Oh, dude.
I know I got like 4 in my house alone.
So crazy. So, you know, in the end, it's the money that talks. So, and this is why I say it's interesting, because Disney has not relinquished their push of that the prequel or the sequel characters. Thank you. From 7, 8, 9, they have not relinquished it. All of their Star Wars Galaxy's Edge,
the theme park,
Disney World, they are still building it. They just built that hotel. What's it called?
Galactic
Star Cruiser, which we kind of got a presentation on when we were there for the opening of
Galaxy's Edge
in Disney World. No, it was for Rise of Resistance when we went. Well, we did both.
Yeah,
we covered both. But anyway, it's all centric around the 7, 8, and 9.
Yes, it's sequel stuff.
They're doing both. They're still trying to push, like the High Republic is another example of this.
But that's still past.
It is, but I'm saying, you know what I'm saying. It's in
it's like new,
very different Star Wars to where it's like, okay, they realized we're not it's not really an apology tour so much as like, okay, we realize that, you know, we have two factions.
But most of it is like the OG stuff, right? Like I was thinking about it because you have the hotel. You have the park, obviously, and then you could lump in High Republic. But then, like, all the other stuff is like the OG stuff we love. You got Ahsoka, Bad Batch. I forgot about that one.
Yes.
Boba Fett, Mandalorian.
I kind of feel like Clone Wars and Rebels is a little bit of a hybrid.
Clone Wars and Rebels?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Where in the sense that they're not real. They're part legacy characters and then part new characters.
Oh, that's true.
So
they're so well received because they were incorporated, like the
Mandalorian,
a completely new character, but he fits so well with that iconic Star Wars era. I mean, he's straight up in there with freaking Luke Skywalker.
That was kind of the point I was getting at. Is the difference is those shows were built in the mold of the originals.
Yes.
So that's the difference. So it's like a hybrid, still new, but built inside the mold, the clear mold of the originals, while still having a new vibe to it.
That's what we all wanted with the sequel trilogies. Yeah. But sequel trilogy. I said trilogies. Sequel trilogy.
Yeah, yeah. I still to this day, as a Star Wars fan, I will never get past how they ended Luke Skywalker. I will just never. That to me was such a tragedy of how they concluded his story.
Some people are kind of still annoyed in the sense that. Because now, even if they continue to use him in like the Mandalorian and stuff like that ultimately that's where his story ends.
No, exactly. That's my point.
So you're pigeonholed.
Yep.
So you could only if you keep. Yep. You're gonna get to a point where you have to start changing him because this is where he has to end. Exactly. He has to end up. So it's like you have to carve out that perfect piece where it's like, okay, so we have these years because if we go past this point, then we're gonna have to start making Luke this way.
No matter what cool things you do, which I hope there's plenty, with these, the Disney Plus Star Wars series, even if they give them his own show, what you said is exactly right. No matter what they do, that's still how it ends. And that to me is that's the biggest tragedy.
That's the crime of it all.
That is the crime of the century in regard to what is some of the things that have happened with Star Wars. That to me was the biggest tragedy. And, again, that's my personal subjective taste. Everybody's got their own opinion. But I remain, every time I think about it, I'm just like, laser sword. Come on.
That's funny. Although Mando did reply, I think he said to Ahsoka that the laser swords.
Yeah, but he's not a Jedi.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
He barely even knew what a Jedi was.
That's true.
That's understandable. I felt like
he's a Mandalorian.
I felt like that was Filoni's way of saying, like, this is how you use that phrase, that term.
With someone who doesn't know what a Jedi
with someone
is.
Who doesn't know. Someone who is not connected in any way.
Anyway, I can't wait for Kenobi.
Yeah,
and I'm glad they ultimately went with Vader. So
I just went down a dark road. I got to work my way back now.
That's another win for Filoni and Favreau, though. Finding out that they were the push to put Vader in there. Is that like surprising though?
Not even.
It's like
we already said it.
Yeah, when I read that, it's like, of course, that's why Vader's in this.
I'm telling you, I'm sending them Christmas cards,
dude. Yeah,
I'm sending them cards. That's it. They're on my list.
You're gonna send them a laser sword?
Yeah, with a gift basket.
But anyway, let's get out of Disney Plus, because that's what we've been locked into for this entire podcast thus far, and go into actual comic books. Marvel comic books. We got a new event book.
We do.
Judgment Day. Marvel.
Yeah.
It's gonna bring the X-Men, the Eternals, and the Avengers. The Avengers all together.
Yeah. It's a culmination of multiple different books, and you've got the Hellfire Gala coming back this year again. That's going to be part of kind of the road to Judgment Day, if you want to call it that. So you've got the culmination of events happening in those three titles, and it's all going to clash in this Judgment Day event. This summer, there's so many different.
There's a lot.
Like we're going over the slate, and it's like, dude, this is a lot of things in like a condensed period of time, and that's true every year. Yeah. It's not really a new thing, but this year it feels very packed with, because the one thing that is more than usual is the amount of shows and movies that are dropping in a period of time, because you have the streaming stuff that's we didn't always have that combination. Now we do, so it just feels like a lot, but. This particular event, it looks like it actually could be pretty cool.
It does look like it would be cool, and I feel like this is going to be one of the bigger, or the big event for Marvel this summer, because everyone has to have their big one. Like DC is obviously the Death of the Justice League, although Tom Taylor just announced the finale to Deceased, which is really cool.
That's right.
Which can't wait for that.
That's right. That's right.
It's like bittersweet, because it's one of the things that, like, that's been one of my favorite series coming out in recent years, but now it's like he's ending it. And I remember,
I feel like he should, though. I feel like this is a really good decision.
Well, it makes sense too, because on the last story they told, they left Darkseid, who we know is infected, up in the air, and it was like, well, what about Darkseid? It's like, he's gonna wrap that. Well, Darkseid and Superman, they're both infected, so it's like, that's gonna be a finale. And I'm wondering, like, because he ended it kind of
like Zack Snyder's Justice League, but deceased.
Yeah, I'm like, this is probably gonna end on a downer, like.
I mean, because
it was kind of. I mean, the last book was kind of where they found the cure and all that stuff. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. Judgment Day. I'm excited for Deceased, but Judgment Day looks like a lot of fun. It's reminding me of like Avengers vs X-Men from several years ago, but just bigger, because now X-Men and the Avengers are in here. But they're like, what about if the Eternals are in the mix now?
Yeah.
So let's push that, no doubt, because of the MCU introduction.
For sure.
So they're like, let's push them more in the comic books. Just kind of like they're actually bringing back Jane Foster Thor. They're doing a new Marvel book for that, because obviously
I can't imagine why.
Yeah, right. They want that to line up. It's weird.
Yeah.
But we should read a description. So let's read a description. Just let everyone know. So the official story description is: the X-Men have achieved immortality, and mutants have taken their place as the dominant species on the planet. The Eternals have discovered long-hidden knowledge about their species, including a devastating truth about mutant kind. The Avengers have come into direct conflict with the Celestials, and are currently using a fallen Celestial as their base of operations, slowly unlocking its secrets. When the Eternals target the mutant nation of Krakoa, the Avengers try to desperately stop this and potentially avoid an apocalyptic war. But it's not that simple. And then obviously, like, the
Yeah,
Avengers
yeah,
go in the
yeah.
middle and all this stuff. So
Mhm.
essentially, it seems like you got the X-Men and the Eternals fighting, and the Avengers are like, hey, can't we just be friends? And then there's secrets and like other like villains and stuff. I'm sure that will happen throughout.
Well, one of the interesting things that's going to work into this storyline is what we saw just happen in the trial of Magneto with Scarlet Witch. And they're with this new ability to basically become immortal for mutants, create an immortality machine of sorts.
Yes, where you don't truly die because you could be brought back in a resurrection queue. Yeah,
exactly. So I'm curious to see how that's going to play into it, because that was an interesting storyline in that series. But I'm also very interested in how you've got some real crossover happening now in real time, which we haven't seen as much in the past between Marvel Comics and the MCU, where there's things happening in parallel.
Yeah.
So like you just said, they're bringing back Jane Foster Thor, but like it would, they're doing the Eternal stuff, and it's different than what they're doing in the movies, but there's a lot of similarities. But one of the things I think is interesting is what they're doing with that, the Celestial, the dead Celestial, and they're using it as a base of operations. And then we all know, we just saw in the Eternals movie, you had a Celestial that was being birthed in the earth.
Yes.
And that they essentially froze. They thought they killed it.
Yeah.
But we know that they didn't really. What's the Celestial's name again? I'm having
I don't remember.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Too many things.
I've seen the movie once.
Yeah. Well, it's one of the more known Celestials, but the point is that you had that emergence to where he literally comes out of the earth and ends with this huge chunk of the Celestial. And in the previews of Judgment Day, you see some images that are very similar to what happened in the Eternals movie. So I'm very curious to see, are we going to really start getting like some real serious overlap between Marvel Comics and the MCU, in more so than we have in the past? Because there's just some hints at that.
That'd be cool if they, like you're saying, if in the MCU they make it their headquarters like in the books.
Right.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. It would make sense to watch, because it's like, how do you get rid of that too?
For sure.
Now it's just in the earth, so it's like, what are you going to do with it?
We don't even know if it's going to be in the same universe.
What
they're doing with the multiverse, with what happens in the Eternals movie. We don't even know if that's going to be in the same universe as, let's say, the Battle for New York.
It has to be. They said it.
I mean, they did. Did they? I can't remember.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's all happened on Earth. Yeah, they I believe they reference some of the stuff.
I think they referenced the blip.
Yes, they did. Yes,
but that doesn't really necessarily mean anything.
I mean, I would imagine that unless otherwise stated, it's all on the same Earth.
Whatever. Fine. But the Celestial thing.
Yes, the Celestial thing, yeah. But it looks like a really cool event. I'm hoping it's good. I feel like Marvel, for me, I think overall the last year or so, Marvel has been putting out some of my favorite books between the big two.
Yeah.
That is, between DC and Marvel, where I think DC has really they've been putting out some good stuff, but they've mainly been excelling, for me at least, in their like alternate reality, Elseworlds type stuff, like Dark Knights of Steel, Deceased, like all that kind of stuff,
Without any question. And because they're like self-contained stories, and some of the main books, they've been good. They haven't been bad.
Yeah.
But DC's also been in so much flux now for a while. They've been just we've just talked about it recently.
The Year of Heroes is no longer the Year of Heroes.
Yeah.
They moved all those movies.
That's something else. But, so there's been a lot of it, whereas Marvel seems like they've kind of just, they've just continued on course, and they've revamped. For me, one of the big shifts in Marvel Comics, where you started just really seeing a discernible like improvement in their stories, and a consistent improvement in stories, and a revamp of a lot of well-known characters, started with Donny Cates' Venom.
Oh, for sure.
For me.
Yeah.
And then to Thor. And then they started getting into doing,
So just Donny Cates, because he's like going through doing every character.
I mean, yeah, but you got to give some Al Ewing some credit. What he did with Immortal Hulk was really great. So he did some good stuff there. But since then, they've really been branching out and doing, Jonathan Hickman did with the X-Men is another great example.
Their whole thing,
But it started with Cates' Venom, I would say, where you really started seeing a discernible shift, and because it started branching out into other books and stuff like that. And then we get into Thor. Jonathan Hickman revamps the X-Men, completely reshapes that whole thing
in great detail.
Just unbelievable. And it's built out from there. And now some of the event books that they've done with Cates also have been just really, really good. Now we've got this Hulk versus Thor coming with the Banner of War.
Mm-hmm.
Devil's Reign story, really, really good. But you had all these offsuit, the little, like we just covered both the Trial of Magneto, which we just mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
and also the Kang the Conqueror miniseries. They're doing a lot of those, and they're good stories, and they're
the Kang the Conqueror one really reshaped Kang like in a big way.
It did.
Like that was almost like his year one book in the sense where they
Yeah.
revamped and explained his origin and linked because it's time travel, so it's
Yeah.
kind of like confusing stuff like Reverse Flash. But they went back and really made it all, condensed it and put it all in one place where you're like, oh, I can understand now. You know what I mean?
And a great character study for Kang the Conqueror at a time where Kang is really going to be emerging in the live action form.
Yes.
That goes back to we're seeing a lot more parallels happening than we had in the past. But Marvel has really been, I agree with you completely. Marvel has been putting out some of the best stuff. And I think it's funny because whenever we say stuff like this, we always get comments like, see, we knew it. They're Marvel fanboys. They're DC haters. And then when we talk about DC, they're Marvel haters. They're just a bunch of DC fanboys. And it's like, no, we just like.
It's like a known thing that when DC's doing really good, for whatever reason, Marvel usually isn't, and vice versa. It's like, why can't you just both be pumping out awesome stories at the same time? It's like I almost feel like they're in on it. They're like, look, to not take away sales from one another, okay? You just do this then, and we'll do this, and that way we're not directly competing because everyone's gonna go over there. Well, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, I do. I kind of appreciate it to some degree because
you don't have to buy the other person's books.
Well, it's also the fact that like for what we do for a living, if it was all cranking on all cylinders all the time.
Oh, looking at the schedule though, it's pretty freaking.
It is.
It's a lot.
It's packed.
That's a lot. Because another thing we still haven't touched on is Punisher just got a new logo.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. The issue 1 just came out recently.
That's right. So did Ghost Rider.
Yeah, it's a lot.
We haven't touched on Ghost Rider either.
Yeah.
Ghost Rider's doing some new things, some interesting things. And the stuff, I'm very curious, especially, heading into Judgment Day, I'm curious to see, because the Devil's Reign story is doing a lot of cool stuff. Mm-hmm. Especially now there's a spinoff, with Doc Ock with the Superior 4, with him bringing in
his alternate versions.
Yeah. So it's like, all these things have an impact on the broader universe. How's it all going to play? Now we head into Judgment Day where you've got these 3 groups that are going to be clashing.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I would imagine that it's going to lead to some sort of a confrontation with a bigger bad that they all have to join forces and take on. Mm-hmm. Maybe not. Maybe they'll surprise us. But curious to see how it all plays out. Because it's definitely interesting. And based on, like we've been saying, the last couple of years of Marvel Comics, could be really good.
Could be really good. Yeah, Devil's Reign has been really, really fun. I think the story I'm looking most forward to right now to conclude is probably the newest Thor story arc, where it's the God of Hammers. Mm-hmm. I'm very curious where Mjolnir is now sentient. It's like, where's that going? Yeah, that's been something that Cates has been playing with since issue 1 of Thor.
Well, you've got Donny Cates' Hulk series. His 7-issue series. It's going to branch out because it goes into the Banner of War. Mm-hmm. So, but you've got that happening in parallel with the God of Hammers storyline, and clearly those 2 things are somehow going to intersect and lead us into Banner of War.
Yeah,
I currently don't see where the tie-in is yet, but I would assume we're going to find out here pretty quick.
Yeah, he's doing some crazy things in that Hulk title. Like it's like so
very
weird.
Different.
It's like, it's good, really good, but it's like, wow. Case in point, Bruce Banner is piloting the Hulk as a starship, which is crazy. He's like in his subconscious, all freaking, like pilot style, just piloting him like he's a ship. And it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, I really like
Captain
what he's
Kirk
doing.
style. That's what I was looking at. I was
Captain Kirk? Yeah.
Captain Kirk style, yeah.
It's really different. That's what I really like about it. It's very different and it's fun. It's a different approach and a concept for Bruce Banner. That's one of the things that I really liked about what they did with Immortal Hulk. It was a character study not on the Hulk but on Bruce Banner. I've said, here before that is why that's my favorite character. It's that Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde scenario where there's a lot of depth that you can go into in terms of character study. And, Al Ewing did just an incredible job of that with the Immortal Hulk. Some people didn't like the way that ended. I actually liked it. But now, Donny Cates is kind of picking up where that left off. and he's also he's continuing to do this really unique Hulk story, but while still focusing on Bruce Banner. So it's cool. I really like what he's doing with it.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see what it all leads. But going back to Judgment Day, that comes out end of July, I believe, and we're getting a prelude in June. So
yeah, and the books, the titles, the 3 titles that are going to be culminating in leading us into that. Those final issues will also be coming out. I believe it's second week of June to the end of June. And we'll actually be touching on that and bringing you guys kind of an episode on the road to Judgment Day here on the main show. In beginning of July, we'll have that just before Judgment Day unleashes.
Let you know what's what.
Yeah. I do think the one thing that is I find the most interesting that they're doing is this whole concept that the mutants are deviants.
It is.
That is the big part of it that I'm especially again with the introduction of the Eternals into the MCU, and they're clearly building up these parallels between comics and
so they could bring it to the movies and be like, here's the conflict.
And with the new introduction of the Eternals, just before we know they're getting ready to introduce the X-Men, I'm really curious to see what they do with that aspect of the mutants, suggesting that the mutants are deviants.
Well, let's see what Multiverse of Madness does, because that's going to officially, I mean, we know Professor X is in it.
Yeah.
So let's see. Although I believe the director did say that Multiverse of Madness is going to have the same impact or the same like surprises as No Way Home did. So that's I mean,
it wasn't.
It wasn't surprising. You know what I mean? But like the same kind of like thing. So it's like
that was my one.
Yeah, because the internet spoiled it.
Yeah.
But like, having Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield reprise their roles as Spider-Man was huge for that movie.
It really was, yeah.
So, I mean, I know we got freaking Patrick Stewart reprising his role as Professor X, but that's only one.
Yeah. So
are we going to get the Ryan Reynolds like rumored? Are we going to get the mutants full on? Like, are they going to introduce the Fantastic Four in here? Are we going to see Mr. Fantastic as part of the Illuminati? Like, what's going to happen? Doctor Doom? Is Doctor Doom going to be in the movie? I don't know.
This kind of falls. Well, no, I was going to say it's very similar to Obi-Wan in the potential, but this has way more possibilities for like crazy.
Multiverse Madness. Yeah. That I've been saying that for like the last 2 years now. I'm like, the title is literally the Multiverse of Madness. Yeah. So many things can happen, but I'm hoping I'm not hyping myself up, because it's like
don't pull another WandaVision.
Yeah, I know. But the title is like, why name it that?
Well, I think they've already shocked all of us with the introduction of the Illuminati.
That's true. And even like the teases of like the Marvel zombies in there.
And that's one of those things where it could go either way, right? Because that's what we said about some of these other shows where like, that's just what they're showing us. We said the same thing about Spider-Man No Way Home. It's like, this is what we know. This is what we've seen. This is what they're showing us. There's got to be more to it, right? They wouldn't just spoil the whole thing. Well, they spoiled the whole thing. So maybe not. Maybe
I love in the No Way Home trailer how when Tom Holland Spider-Man is jumping towards all the villains, you see like Lizard get punched by an invisible force.
Right,
and it's clearly because they like
that Brazilian trailer.
Yeah, they took out like Andrew Garfield, like freaking rotoed him out. It's like no one wanted to move the Lizard though, because that's weird. He's getting punched by no one. Okay,
it's like guys, it's 3 frames, just 3 frames.
Insane. But I think that brings today's podcast to a close.
Yeah, this was a hearty one. We were at the beginning, we're just like, it's kind of a lull before the storm. This is what I'm saying. And then
it was that Netflix rant.
Yeah.
That's what did it.
Whatever.
Yeah. In any case, we'll see you all next time when we talk about all things comics.